The city of San Francisco is lit up in all its glory while Tom drives his car with Violet in the passenger seat. They're heading to a party that Violet is quite excited for. Tom, on the other hand, seems nervous as he's quoting random facts he saw on the Animal Planet channel earlier today. He suddenly remembers that he had an errand to run today that he forgot about. He has to swing by the restaurant and get receipts, because he promised Alex that he'd do it tonight. But Violet finds this unnecessary and insists on not changing course to her sister's party, where he can have a drink and relax. She wants to dance and enjoy herself with him, but he appears to be very stressed about the receipts. Violet wants to know why he's so tense and sweaty, which is when he pulls the car over. He pulls out a small box and confesses that he planned to propose to her tonight. Violet gasps in surprise and immediately takes him in for a kiss, expressing how much she loves him. Tom explains that the thing about the receipts was an elaborate skit that is now messed up. Violet feels guilty for questioning him too much. They decide to go on with how Tom had the night planned, and they show up at the busy Fiancé restaurant, where jazz music is playing. Alex greets them, acting surprised, when Tom reveals that their cover is already blown. Tom tells Alex to go according to plan, even though Violet knows already. Alex finds this strange, but directs the couple to wait at the beautiful rooftop while he finds the receipts. Violet is amazed to see how beautifully lit and decorated the rooftop is, where Alex has made a setup for a romantic candlelight dinner. He points towards the bridge and claims that San Francisco is a city for lovers. Alex leaves them while Tom starts his proclamation of love for her. He first met her a year ago, on New Year's Eve. They were at a make-up-your-own superhero party, where Tom was dressed as Super Bunny. Violet was dressed as Princess Diana, dancing with her sister Susie. Their eyes met across the room, and Violet asked Susie who the cute bunny was. Susie assumed that he looked like a murderer, which Violet still believes to be harsh. They laugh at Susie's judgment when Tom plays the song that began when they first talked. As the song played, Tom walked over to Violet and asked what her superpower was. Violet responded that Princess Diana doesn't require a superpower. Now, Tom brings out the engagement ring with a ruby in it and places it on the table. He wasn't sure at first about what ring to go for, but then he remembered that he's supposed to know her the best. He knows that blood diamonds make her upset, which is why he got her a ruby ring. She can return it and get something else from Tiffany if she wants, because he already has an appointment there tomorrow. Violet finds the ring perfect. He finally pops the question, when Alex interrupts them because Chef Sally just showed up. Chef Sally, who is both Alex and Tom's boss, calls him out for calling in sick at work. Tom requests her not to make a scene right now, but she complains about how he betrayed her, until Tom points out that he's in the middle of proposing to his future wife. With Tom and Violet finally alone again, Tom gets down on one knee, and they officially and romantically get engaged. They continue to have the best time with each other, and the day of their engagement party finally arrives. Tom's parents give a strange but well-meaning toast at the party, followed by a short and misunderstood speech by Violet's father and his latest trophy wife. The next one is Violet's sister Susie, who apparently doesn't believe in marriage or kids, but is weeping right now because Violet and Tom make her believe that love is real. She barely makes it through her speech between her sobs and tears, but it's clear that she loves the couple a lot. After that, Violet's mother Sylvia poses her questions about whether the couple is sure about going ahead with this engagement, considering the fact that they dated only for a year. Then, Alex makes the scene more hilarious by sharing his multimedia presentation of Tom's past lovers, and a song about how Violet got the ring, despite all the competition she had. Violet finds this extremely hilarious, while Tom is embarrassed. While Tom and Violet dance together, Alex introduces himself to Susie, who has already heard about him. He tries to hit on her, but she makes it very clear in the beginning that he doesn't stand a chance. Tom and Violet are approached by one of Violet's ex-boyfriends, Gideon. He calls Violet his favorite ex-girlfriend, as he was called here by Sylvia, Violet's mom. Violet goes to the loo to get out of this awkward interaction. Tom asks about Gideon's experience in Afghanistan, because he's wearing the army uniform, and he tells Tom that he dated Violet for longer than him. Gideon and Violet dated for 4.5 years. Tom and Violet sleep at the inn where the party was hosted, and spend the night drinking and making plans for their future together. They are madly in love with each other, and life seems like a dream right now. The next morning, the hungover couple is waiting at the reception to check out when they run into Alex. He tells them that he didn't want to drive home last night, so he just booked himself a room at the inn. Soon after, they also see Susie, and it takes them a while to put two and two together. Tom and Alex are at work when Audrey, the new hostess of their restaurant, enters the kitchen to introduce herself. Tom and Audrey are still talking when Alex looks over and announces that Tom is engaged, to get Audrey's claws off of him. Once Audrey is gone, Alex confronts Tom for flirting with the help, while Tom clarifies that he was just being friendly. Things are intense at work, and Tom and Alex are working in a super busy kitchen when Chef Sally cuts her finger off by accident. She goes to the hospital, leaving Tom in charge because he is the sous chef. Tom takes over, successfully commanding everyone except for Alex, who is a gross goofball. Meanwhile, Violet is at home on a video call with all her mom and grandparents. They disapprove of her choice to get married in the Bay Area of San Francisco. Violet has also been waiting for mail from Berkeley. She visits a barn to see if it'll be the right venue for her wedding, but the owner of the barn hits on her. One more day with no mail from Berkeley, and the venue she likes isn't available for 3 years. Tom and Violet also face difficulties because Tom is a Jew and Violet is Christian, so there's conflict about what religious practices to include in their ceremony. Violet rants to Susie about not liking any wedding dresses from the magazines. Susie reminds her that weddings are special events in one's life, so she should enjoy all these preparations. Violet admits that she didn't get into Berkeley, which was the perfect local teaching job. Susie empathizes with her as she goes on about how she won't have any career after her marriage now. Susie tears up as usual, and Violet doesn't understand why all her moments are turned into Susie's with her crying. Susie confesses that she is pregnant, and feels guilty about it because she doesn't want to take attention away from her sister. What's worse is that Alex is the baby daddy, which makes Violet feel worse as she calls him a moron. Alex and Susie get married in no time, and their event is surprisingly beautiful. They both seem to be in love with each other, despite Alex's childish antics. Alex even belts out a Spanish ballad for Susie, which she doesn't understand but appreciates. Everyone is touched by his performance, except for Tom and Violet, who are thinking how they'll be able to top a wedding like that. On their drive back home, they try to find faults in the wedding, but finally accept the fact that the wedding was beautiful. One day, Violet gets a letter in the mail from the University of Michigan. She waits anxiously for Tom to get home, and breaks the news of her acceptance to him almost immediately. Tom is happy to hear this, but Violet isn't. She has been panicking about this for a long time. This is because she saw her mother quit her job for her father, and how that affected their marriage in the long run. Tom calms her down, because he knows they can handle this maturely. He's not scared of this, and doesn't want to be resented by her. This job will be for 2 years, and Tom sees this as nothing, in the grand scheme of them spending all their lives together. They can move back here after 2 years, and Tom is confident about his employment opportunities in Michigan. He suggests putting off the wedding, because they're not in any rush, which is a relief for Violet. They don't pay much heed to what their families will think of this decision, only for one of the family members to pass away not long after. Tom gives Chef Sally his 2 weeks' notice, and learns that he was going to be named head chef at Sally's new restaurant. This is disappointing for Tom, who might have done things differently if he'd known about his impending promotion. Chef Sally disapproves of Tom's decision, but he stays true to his word and moves to Michigan with Violet. Violet attends her first class, taught by Professor Winton Childs. He is giving his lecture when the fire alarm blares, prompting students to get up from their seats. But he commands them to sit back down and continues his lecture, massively impressing all his students, especially Violet. Meanwhile, Tom struggles with the cold weather of Michigan, and Zingerman's is the only place that hires him. It's a fast food joint where he makes sandwiches with his co-worker, Margaret. Winton leads a study with some select students, Violet, Vanitha, Doug, and Ming, who all look up to him. Violet proposes an idea using stale donuts for their research, and it gets approved, earning her praise from Winton and her peers. Violet and Tom attend a mixer with Winton and her peers, where they tell the story of how they met 2 years ago. But their story is interrupted by Winton's majestic dog. Tom is left alone after a while, because Violet is mingling with people. A fellow faculty spouse called Bill approaches and befriends him. He is a stay-at-home dad, who also wants to know if Tom has seen Ratatouille like everyone else. On their walk back home, Violet apologizes to Tom for not giving him enough time at the party, and checks up on him regarding the move. Bill takes Tom hunting the next day, which is what he calls the initiation of Tom's manhood. Bill knits to keep him busy at home, and is certain that Tom will adjust here easily. Tom finds this notion debatable, as he has to drive home with the deer they just hunted. Alex and Susie finally have their baby girl, and Violet and Tom come to visit the couple and their newborn, called Vanessa. Alex is now the head chef at Sally's restaurant and thanks Tom for skyrocketing his career. Alex encourages Tom to be honest with Violet about how he really feels about staying in Michigan. He gives Tom advice based on his experience of being a happy husband and father, and it's all about honesty to him. Meanwhile, Susie is asleep in her room, and her mother questions Violet about the new date for her postponed wedding. Her mother reminds her that she kept putting things off with Gideon too, because she always needs things to be perfect. Violet clarifies that the reason why she kept avoiding settling with Gideon is because he is an idiot. Nevertheless, her mother keeps pressuring her to pick a date for her wedding, because she actually likes marriage and wants Violet to be happy. On the ride back home, Violet checks in on Tom about Alex's new job at the restaurant. They decide to start planning the wedding, and Tom volunteers to take the lead this time, because he has more time on his hands than Violet. Violet kickstarts the study with Winton and the other students. That day, Winton senses that something is bothering Violet, and asks her about it. After some hesitation, she accepts that she wishes sometimes that Tom was happier here. Winton teaches her not to let Tom's dissatisfaction get in the way of enjoying her success, because she made it so far. He makes a point to prioritize herself, and attempts to charm her in a way that she doesn't pick up quite yet. Tom starts the wedding planning with Bill. He goes to a cake tasting, and even tries out the tuxedo sweater Bill knitted for him. but he plans to try a real tuxedo because he looks like Bigfoot in Bill's sweater. With the passage of time, both Violet and Tom find their rhythms in their respective roles in research and wedding planning. One day, Winton breaks the news to Violet that her stay in Michigan could be prolonged because he has managed to get funding for their project with the help of her brilliant work. When she shares this news with Tom, he sounds dejected and leaves the house for a long while. They both lie in bed restlessly that night when Violet follows up on Winton's advice and repeats the words he fed her earlier. This upsets Tom even more, and they fight, because they'd rather voice their concerns than put themselves in their partner's shoes. Tom finally opens up about how much he hates it, and Violet proposes a solution. But he is too confused and overwhelmed, so he just withdraws himself in her arms, which leads her to apologize. They make up, but still know that they both can't be happy there. A lot more time has passed, and Tom is an avid hunter now. Alex, Susie, and their daughter Vanessa visit Tom and Violet in Michigan. Even Alex and Susie are weirded out by the state Tom and Violet are in right now, and how unhinged their relationship appears to be. Alex announces that they're going to have a baby boy soon, which leads to Tom expressing that he no longer wants to have kids. This alarms Violet, because that's not what they discussed earlier. She comes up with the idea of babysitting Vanessa with Tom while Alex and Susie go out that night. Tom gets busy watching a YouTube video while he's left alone with Vanessa. When Violet checks back in, Vanessa is missing. They find her in the kitchen, where she shoots Violet with Tom's crossbow. Tom pulls the arrow out of Violet's leg when Alex and Susie return from their night out. Everyone panics and lashes out at Tom for not being caring or responsible enough towards both Violet and Vanessa. To make matters worse, another one of Violet's grandparents passes away, still waiting for her marriage to happen. Violet's study findings now apply to Tom too, as he also eats stale donuts immediately instead of waiting for fresh ones. This shows that he is a screw-up, as he spends most of his days in the Super Bunny costume now. That night, Violet goes out for drinks with Winton and the rest of her department. It's almost sunrise, and Tom wakes up in his bed alone due to the alarm clock. Violet still hasn't returned home, and is at the bar talking to Winton. They are both drunk and Violet complains about her relationship to him. She wants something different tonight, which causes Winton to kiss her, and she doesn't stop him either. Vanitha witnesses the whole scene, until Violet remembers that she is with Tom, and pulls herself back from the kiss. Soon after, she rushes to find Tom, who is at his job preparing bread at Zingerman's. She shows up at his workplace still drunk, and pitches the idea of them getting married immediately this time, because they both love each other. They enter into a passionate kiss, which stops when Violet almost throws up in Tom's mouth. They spend the day doing whatever possible to get their wedding planned for the coming weekend. A night before their rehearsal dinner, Violet brings up the fact that Winton kissed her. Tom makes it clear that he's not welcome at their wedding, and Violet assures him that this will never happen again. But when they make love that night, Tom doesn't seem over Violet's infidelity, and sleeps on the couch instead. Alex and Susie give their speech at the rehearsal dinner, where both Tom and Violet look miserable. While everyone dances and rejoices, Tom walks out of the party and runs into Winton waiting outside. Violet follows Tom outside and witnesses him chasing Winton down the street. When he finally catches up to Winton, he apologizes and explains that a man would never turn down a woman who wants to kiss him. Violet tries to find Tom, as he leaves Winton and runs into Margaret instead. She offers to take him for food, because she has keys to the Zingermans. So they sneak into the kitchen in the dark and get rowdy. Margaret comes onto him and starts to kiss him. She does some other wild things too, that she finds to be seductive, but they further confuse Tom. He finally realizes that she is trying to have sex with him, which is when he walks out into the freezing woods. He gets lost in the woods at night, mumbling Violet's name. When Tom wakes up the next morning, he is lying half on the snow in the woods, with half of his toe bitten off. He is taken to the hospital, where Violet is by his side. She saw him taken to the hospital with no pants, so she has an idea about what he was up to last night. They both finally accept that neither of them is happy in this relationship. They both tear up, feeling sorry for themselves, because they know that they are almost perfect for each other. Once Tom is healed, Violet returns his ring and he moves back to San Francisco. This time, Violet attends her grandpa's funeral alone. Some time later, she starts to date Winton. Tom also enters a relationship with Audrey. They both feel out of place when they spend Thanksgiving with their new partners. Many seasons pass, and Violet is still not completely over Tom, as she often looks at their old pictures together. She is surprised to see an email from Tom in her inbox, wishing her a happy birthday, along with a video of a prank her colleague Ming played on a test subject. The video cracks her up, and she reminisces about Tom even more. On the other hand, Tom now works at Chef Sally's restaurant as a sous chef under Alex. He's working in the kitchen one day when Violet calls. They talk after a long time, and ask about each other and their partners. Their playful banter turns into a deep conversation about what really ended things for Violet. It was the moment when she saw him eating stale donuts, which showed her his emotional deficiencies. Tom retaliates, and their call ends on a bad note, because he is still upset with her. Alex sees Tom crying while cutting onions and checks up on him. Tom opens up to Alex, who makes him understand that he should open his own restaurant instead of working under him, because he's a better chef than Alex will ever be. On that note, Alex fires Tom because he's too good for this job. Soon after, Tom sets up his own taco food truck, which turns out to be a massive success. Violet gets promoted to assistant professor, set on the track to tenure. Doug is moving to the University of North Dakota and insinuates that Violet getting this job has something to do with her dating Winton. She goes to Winton and asks him if she got this job on merit. Vinitha and Ming listen in on their conversation as Violet verifies whether she was the strongest candidate for this job. His refusal to answer her directly confirms her concerns about the legitimacy of her promotion. It turns out that Ming deserved to be promoted, and Winton cheated to keep her there. They break up, and Violet tries some stale donuts for the first time. Tom meets his parents for breakfast, who ask him about Violet. They confront him about how much time he's going to waste until he marries her. They've both run out of grandparents, so even their parents might meet their end and never get to see them married. Talking to his parents reveals that they've been facing a lot of health problems recently, but told him nothing. He understands now where he got his communication issues from, and they lecture him on how married people are never completely right for each other. He has to make things work with the girl he marries, and that girl better be Violet. Consequently, Tom breaks up with Audrey, confessing that he's been thinking about his ex a lot. Audrey loses her patience and resorts to saying mean things about him and Violet. Violet is at her grandma's funeral when she encounters Gideon. He inquires about her family with Tom, and she informs him that they split up. Gideon introduces her to his 4-year-old daughter, as he chose to marry instead of spending 4 years in a relationship he didn't want to be in. Tom also visits her at the funeral, and they admit how nice it is to see each other. They reconcile in her childhood bedroom, and he invites her to spend a few weeks with him in San Francisco. The time they spend together in San Francisco is heaven for them. Susie prompts Violet to not mess things up this time, as it's been 5 years. As Tom drives Violet to the airport, he makes it known that they're being stupid and need to be together. They bring up the first time they met, and Violet insists that he pull over right now. She proposes to him because they can solve their problems after marriage, but they can promise to love each other every step of the way. Tom brings out the ring because he was also going to propose to her at the airport. Violet leads him to the perfect wedding she planned for him, where they take their vows in the warm presence of all their friends and family.